Northern Ireland, some snow on the hills, and then as this wet weather arrives across Scotland, some significant snow likely on the higher routes here, also across parts of northern England. Some of the higher routes not very pleasant for a time through the course of tomorrow afternoon. We'll turn back to rain as we go through the day. Mostly rain at low levels and across the southwest, where it will actually eventually get to double figures. But East Anglia in the southeast staying cold but largely dry until the rain pushes in here late afternoon into the evening. It's going to be followed by showers, and those showers turning wintry once more. So we do have another Met Office yellow warning for snow and ice from Thursday evening into Friday morning across northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The snow could really start to build up here, and as temperatures won't be as low but still getting close to freezing, could lead to some icy conditions, particularly for Friday morning's commute as the showers continue to come in. Mostly rain at low levels and on the coast, but certainly over any kind of smallish hills we will see some snow building up during Friday morning in those showers. A scattering of showers elsewhere, but for many central and eastern parts, Friday dry and bright with sunny spells, but it will be cold. Temperatures again below average and feeling colder with the wind.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, my name's Dominic Frisby and it is nearly time for Headliners. But before we meet tonight's comedians and discover tonight's stories, here is everyone's favourite newsreader, Polly Middlehurst, with the news.
Good evening, I'm Polly Middlehurst with your latest news headlines and the story that's just broken in the last 30 minutes or so. Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers in the United States claims she deserves a new trial after being convicted last week of aiding Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuses. Her defence lawyer, Christian Everdell, believes the jury could have been influenced after one member told the media that he had shared his experience of sexual abuse during deliberations. In a letter to the US District Judge, Mr. Everdell says there are grounds to bring about a retrial in the interests of justice. He says the matter is of pressing importance. That breaking in the last half hour. We will, of course, update you when we get any new information. The other big breaking story tonight, Novak Djokovic has had his visa revoked by the Australian government and a letter has been issued for his deportation from the country. The The world number one's hopes of defending his Australian Open title look over as Border Force confirm he failed to provide appropriate evidence to meet the country's entry requirements. The tennis player had refused to reveal whether he'd had a COVID vaccine or not. Prime Minister Scott Morrison in Australia tweeted to say no one is above the rules that have been critical to allow Australia's low COVID rates. Well, back here in the UK, COVID measures have been updated right across Britain. Pre-departure PCR tests for travellers returning to England and Wales from abroad are going to be scrapped. And from next week, people who test positive with a lateral flow test who are asymptomatic won't need to take a PCR test to begin their isolation. And in Scotland, the First Minister Nicola Sturgeon also confirmed the isolation period will be cut from 10 days to 7. And Boris Johnson was busy defending the government's financial support for vulnerable people during the pandemic today in his first PMQs of the year. The Deputy Labour leader Angela Rayner stood up for Sir Keir Starmer in the House of Commons following his positive COVID test. She warned millions of British workers were facing further pay cuts and tax hikes, with inflation at its highest level since the 90s. Boris Johnson retaliated, saying record numbers of people were in work, and he backed his party's Warm Homes discount, winter fuel and cold weather payments. And 4 people have been cleared of criminal damage after pulling down the statue of Edward Colston in Bristol. The memorial of the slave trader was toppled and thrown into the harbour during the Black Lives Matter protest in June last year. All 4 defendants admitted being involved but denied their actions were criminal. That's all from me. Now back to headliners.
Welcome to Headliners. I'm Dominic Frisby, and this is the show in which comedians sneak a peek at tomorrow's papers the night before with occasionally amusing results. Before we meet tonight's guests, let's find out what the headlines are. And so the Telegraph has Colston 4 walk free as jury says no crime was committed, a story we'll be looking at shortly. And also Rees-Mogg urges Sunak to ditch tax rise, not only Rees-Mogg but Frisby too. The Daily Mail has We have lift off Britain. This is the news that almost all foreign travel tests will be scrapped, and Boris says the UK may be back to normal in 3 weeks. I'm a bit suspicious about that one. The Guardian has 4 cleared over toppling of Edward Colston statue, and also Djokovic has visa cancelled over furore. It's always a furore, isn't it? The FT has investors discard techs and pile into recovery-driven companies. That's today's falls in the Nasdaq. Also, protests grip Kazakhstan as a result of spiralling food and fuel costs. Hong Kong also faces soaring food prices as strict Omicron, that's the correct pronunciation, by the way, strict Omicron curbs halt cargo flights. It's as though inflation is a global problem. The Metro leads with Scots out of COVID isolation. Sturgeon U-turn, along with a picture of some cheering Scots. The Express goes with statue vandals cleared, but where will it all end, indeed? And The Sun has Baroness Bra in cop quiz. I have no idea what that is, but I do know one thing, it is clickbait. Right, The Mirror has Perfect Storm, the NHS facing a crisis with soaring staff absences and a huge rise in patient numbers. I thought that was yesterday's news. The Mirror about a day behind there. The Times leads with boost for holidays as travel tests scrapped. There's also the Colston story and a picture of Novak Djokovic, who is to be deported from Australia. I thought it was deported too. And finally, we have the Daily Star. And as always, the Star wins again with Blair Ditch Project. Soldiers' mums begged the Queen to think again over XPM's honour. That petition is now up to 750,000. If there's one thing that can unite the left and the right in these divided times, it is dislike of Tony Blair. Perhaps that is the new third way. And so to tonight's guests. Making his headliner's debut, we have Seattle's foremost Harry Potter impersonator in the over 45s category. It's Eric McElroy.
Hello.
And making his 745th headliner's appearance is former Scottish pole dancing champion Leo Kearse. Hello, gentlemen. How are we doing? Did we all have a good Christmas?
It was good. It was all right.
It was good. What did you get? Any nice prezzies?
Exactly what I wanted. I got a toaster.
What
Jealous,
make?
aren't you? I don't know, but it's fancy. It's got the buttons that eject the toast. It does 4 slices, and it can do defrost and warm up.
It didn't come with instructions on how to take it into the bath with you, did it?
No, it did not. Because you're not allowed plugs in the bathroom in this country.
No, you're not. For good
I don't
reason.
understand that.
We've got proper electricity in this country. Your electricity in America is 110 volts.
In America,
It takes about 3 days to boil a
you can bathe
kettle.
with your toaster, you can bathe with your hairdryer. That's why it's the greatest country on earth.
I once wrote a film which bizarrely never got made about an old lady who becomes a serial killer. And one of the means by which she kills one of her victims is the toaster in the bath trick.
Right.
So
With an extension cord.
yeah,
Yeah, have to.
very long
Have
one.
to be.
Leo, how was your Christmas? Any nice prezzies?
I got a Fitbit. I hope that's not seen as product placement by Ofcom, but no, it wasn't that great. Me and my fiancée went up to Glasgow to meet my family, and my mum was really mean to my fiancée.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, so we invited my mum to the wedding. And my mum said she couldn't come because she wanted to go to Spain, and then said, "Why are you getting married so soon? Are you pregnant?" Like,
Oh my God!
This is, we're obviously a couple of bottles of bubbly.
At least we know where Leo Kearse got his direct nature from.
Definitely see that now. That is clear.
Since you ask, I got this nice tie from my son, very nice, and I also got from Aideen, my other half, a free tooth whitening session in the dentist.
That's how it is. My mum sent me one of those a few months ago. Yeah, it's always a good gift.
Well, if you're going to be a star on GB News, you've got to have white teeth. Yeah. Right, and so to our first story, and this is in the Mail and pretty much everywhere, the widely covered story of the Black Lives Matter protesters who toppled the notorious statue of Edward Colston. They wheeled it up the road and then dumped it into Bristol Harbour. You've no doubt seen the videos. They were everywhere, and there were hundreds of people involved. But a case of criminal damage was brought against 4 of them, and there are some wonderful names in here. Rhiann Graham, Milo Ponsford, Jake Skews, and Sage Willoughby, no doubt all of them from up the flats. Today a jury found them not guilty of criminal damage. There is quite a lot to unpick here, Eric. This is your first headliner story, and we've thrown you in at the deep end, so good luck. What are your views?
Well, I mean, I just hope with this that the people who are going to be upset with this jury verdict are going to be, looking at the fact that people were happy with the jury verdict in the Kyle Rittenhouse case in the U.S., which I know you guys talked about on this show, and so this is the jury system. They've decided, and that's why, America and Britain are such great countries. It's done and dusted, whether you agree with the verdict or not.
Leo, what are your thoughts?
Well,
very passive-aggressive, by the way. I wasn't quite sure how to react, so I just put it all onto Leo. And I thought, I'll let him deal with that one.
I mean, this sets a precedent. I don't know if the statue should have come down. Like Edward Colston might have been a bad guy. I don't know. I didn't know him that well, to be honest. But everybody in the old days...
go down. I went to school with him.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. You're probably worse than him. But yeah, everybody in the old days was a bad person. They were either like a dandy highwayman or a pirate or something like that. So, I mean, I don't think we can judge people from the old days by the same standards we judge people now. And the jury were told to disregard, I'm reading this from the paper, disregard the rhetoric about the weight and consequences of their decision and try the case purely on the evidence in front of them and apply the letter of the law. And, I mean, this really sort of sets into precedent that...
And they didn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not saying that.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying that, but
that was an upward inflection. It was a question, not a statement.
I mean, it sets into legal precedent in this country that criminal damage is now legal for whatever reasons. So I'm looking forward to smashing up some Banksies. I never liked his stuff, and he donated to the fund for these posh kids.
I guess there's going to be a lot of arguments about what precedent this sets, and we look forward to viewing these arguments as they unfold and talking about them on Headliners. Right, we move on. We move on to our next story, and this is in the Telegraph, and such is the racket that is PCR tests. People were buying plane tickets to Europe for like 20 or 30 quid a pop, and then having to pay 3, 4, 5 times as much for a PCR test. Very expensive for families. Thankfully, travellers returning to the UK now won't have to take PCR tests at 80 quid a go, but as long as they are vaccinated. Instead, they can take lateral flow tests, which only cost 20 or 30 quid. I mean, this whole thing is such a racket. But anyway, passengers also won't have to self-isolate until they get a negative result. And the signs are that we are returning to something like normal, although it does look like it's going to be one rule for the vaccinated and another one for everyone else. This is you, Leo. Have you got some thoughts here?
Yeah, so this is, I mean, as you said, PCR tests are going to be ditched for travellers arriving in the UK, but they are going to be replaced with lateral flow tests, which I thought were free. But these ones aren't because you've been on holiday, so that's, bad. So the government isn't going to give you a free one for this.
It's also amazing how before they were unreliable, but now suddenly they're reliable again.
Yeah. I mean, I thought you got false negatives and things with them, but apparently they're not seen as. I mean, this is because Omicron or Omicron, if you've had a classical. Omicron, if you've had a classical education. I mean, I'm calling it Omicron. I don't care. I'm Scottish. I'm not going to call it Omicron.
Me and weird. Sage Willoughby and Milo Ponsonby will call it Omicron.
Oh my, the state. Man, we need to bring back bullying in schools. Like, these people should have had any impulse to topple a statue beaten out of them when they're still in short trousers. But anyway, I mean, this has got to be tough for a government, the Tory government to.
I really want to meet Leo's mum. Don't you want to meet Leo's mum?
Imagine.
I think she'd eat you alive.
Poor fiancé.
I just want it for the experience. It's like doing a Tough Mudder or something.
Can we get back to the news?
Sorry.
This is in the Telegraph. We should take it seriously. No, I mean, Omicron isn't this sort of. It's not toppling grannies all over the place. In Scotland, there's only been one Omicron patient that's required intensive care. And that was probably for choking on a kebab. And experts are saying that travel should be allowed. I mean, there's no point stopping international travel when it's everywhere. It's everywhere, and it's not. It seems to be far less severe than previous variants. But yeah, I just think it's got to be tough for the government to say, oh, you don't have to have a test when people like Owen Patterson are making so much money from the company providing the tests. I mean, if you're getting all these backhanders, the government's got to feel bad seeing this gravy train.
I had Omicron all aboard the gravy train. I had Omicron over Christmas, and if I hadn't tested positive, I would not have even known I was ill. I just had a sort of slightly bad headache and was grouchy for a couple of days.
That's normal for you, isn't
exactly.
it?
Normal Christmas. So I wouldn't have even known. Have you had Omicron?
I think I had a Delta. I was early December before it had taken off, the whole Omicron. So I felt it, definitely. So, but I mean, if you're struggling with lateral flow tests, because I have children in secondary school, I've got a stockpile.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, because they give them to the kids from the schools.
If you sell them to 15 quid a pop, you're undercutting the government.
Family in America.
You can't use them for travelling, because I looked into that.
You can't use the NHS one?
You can't use the NHS one. No. I mean, if it's the same system as PCR tests, I had to spend, I think it was about 8 times more than my Ryanair flight to get a PCR test.
I think that was just you.
They should Ryanair should start doing bargain basement PCR and lateral flow tests. Think of the money they could make.
Pay 2 quid extra for a negative result.
Like their flight.
No, they'd charge you about 100 quid. You know how they rip you off on your baggage allowance and all that? They'd rip you off on the flight.
Don't get me started on Ryanair.
OK, let's not. We'll move on. We'll move on to the Guardian and J.K. Rowling, the woman who once could do no wrong and now can do no right. Former talk show host Jon Stewart has accused her of using anti-Semitic imagery in her depiction of the goblins that run the Gringotts Bank Gringotts, I mean, please. Anyway, it's so naff. Anyway, I wasn't aware she designed the puppets, but I guess she had the final approval. Leo, you're a well-known student of anti-Semitic imagery. What's the story here?
Well, the story here is, I mean, basically you said it, she's been accused by Jon Stewart of using anti-Semitic imagery in the films. But like you say, it's in the books. You create the imagery in your own head.
Yeah.
And if Jon Stewart was making them look like Jewish people, then Jon Stewart is anti-Semitic.
He's Jewish.
Well, Jewish people can have internalised anti-Semitism. If critical race theory has taught us anything, it's that nothing is logical and anything can be made up.
Now, to be fair, I mean, J.K. Rowling, I mean, she's had the trans thing now. And I mean, I'm wondering when Pete is going to come after her for, depictions of snakes next. It's going to happen.
Probably
at
in
some
Epstein's
point,
Black
Book or what all the
like
creatures. But I mean, now Jon Stewart, to be fair, has come out quite emphatically and said that he was not saying she was anti-Semitic, that it was exaggerated. He was on a podcast making jokes because you can't joke about anything anymore. And but he was pointing out how the characters of bankers were using the imagery just as seeped into culture. And as a Jewish person, that he is sitting there watching the film, the kind of the pointy ears and the nose and being the bankers and being tight with money, unintentionally. It was very clear that it was anti-Semitic. So that's what he's
Okay, so a comedian who was using hyperbole for comic effects has been quoted out of context.
When does that
By
ever
a journalist? Oh my God, I can't believe it.
It's shocking. I've never heard of it. Have you heard of that? I've never heard of that.
I think we can see, if we're lucky, we might be able to see on our backdrop the image in question. I can certainly see it over there. There, we can see it there behind, over your head, Leo. And there is the anti-Semitic imagery in question. Yeah. I don't know that many people who look like that.
I know, that looks like a mural that Jeremy Corbyn had painted.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like Piers Corbyn. I had my photo taken with Piers Corbyn. It's anti-Corbynic imagery is what it is. Right, ladies and gents, we have reached the end of part one. It is time for the weather, and then we're going to have some ads. We'll be back in part two in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good evening. It is getting cold out there. It's going to be frosty tonight and frosty in the morning. A few fog patches as well. Wet weather then spreads east tomorrow with some snow mixed in, mostly over the hills. That's courtesy of this area of low pressure, but it's not with us yet. A bump in the isobars, a ridge of high pressure, meaning clear skies, and those winds continuing to ease down. So light winds, clear skies this time of night means a frost, a widespread frost forming already, and temperatures are only going to continue to fall. There'll be some fog patches forming as well, of course, parts of the Midlands and southern England too. But the main thing will be those temperatures below freezing, even in towns and cities, well below in rural spots. So a very cold start to Thursday, and then things turn wet across Northern Ireland, some snow on the hills, and then as this wet weather arrives across Scotland, some significant snow likely on the higher routes here, also across parts of Northern England. Some of the higher routes not very pleasant for a time through the course of tomorrow afternoon. We'll turn back to rain as we go through the day. Mostly rain at low levels and across the southwest, where it will actually eventually get to double figures. But East Anglia in the southeast staying cold, but largely dry until the rain pushes in here late afternoon into the evening. It's going to be followed by showers, and those showers turning wintry once more. So we do have another Met Office yellow warning for snow and ice from Thursday evening into Friday morning across northwest England, parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The snow could really start to build up here, and as temperatures won't be as low, but still getting close to freezing, could lead to some icy conditions, particularly for Friday morning's commute as the showers continue to come in. Mostly rain at low levels and on the coast, but certainly over any kind of smallish hills, we will see some snow building up during Friday morning in those showers. A scattering of showers elsewhere, but for many central and eastern parts, Friday dry and bright with sunny spells, but it will be cold. Temperatures again below average and feeling colder with the wind.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Dominic Frisby, and with me are token American Eric McElroy and token Scot Leo Kearse, and we are looking at tomorrow's papers, the best stories therein, and so to another story with rather profound implications. This is from The Guardian. Tony Blair's former Defence Secretary, Jeff Hoon, has claimed he was told to burn a memo from the Attorney General that cast doubt on the legality of the Iraq War. Another gag-packed story. This one's for you, Leo.
This is... everybody seems to be rounding on Tony Blair at the moment. He was given a knighthood, has he been given a knighthood? I don't know if it's actually going to happen. Now, there's petitions trying to stop it. I don't know. I sort of feel for Tony a bit. He was our leader. He was Prime Minister for 13 years? That's a long time to be in charge of a country. You're making loads of decisions every day. You're going to make a few clangers. He had the Iraq War. He probably thought it was going to be a good idea. He probably thought, we go in there, we take out Saddam Hussein, and democracy happens. It didn't work like that. It never seems to work like that in the Middle East. I don't think he can be completely blamed for it. He was really going in with America, following America's lead. I think he was one of our greatest ever prime ministers. I think his face should be on the new 10 Bitcoin note. And I think he made mistakes that were worse. Like faith schools are a terrible idea. They just sow division and tribalism right at the very, the youngest in society. And devolution has been a disaster, creating these satellite parliaments that just fight against Westminster and breed all this division. I think that was a terrible idea as well. But this, a memo, somebody being asked to burn a memo, surely that happens on a daily basis. They've probably got a Wicker Man-style bonfire for Boris Johnson.
What can I say? Leo Kearse, a surprising and disappointing defence of Tony Blair. Not what I was expecting from you. I so admired your politics up until this point, apart from your wrong views on Scotland. Eric, what are your thoughts on this?
I like the fact that in the story, first off, they said it was to burn the memo. It was a bad memo for what they wanted it to say. So it could have been like, we should burn it. Just a little bit of banter. But Jeff Hoon was fired apparently at some point after this, and he was upset that he was fired over the phone. Right? He was called up and let go by Tony Blair over the phone. Which in modern, that's the good old ways. Nobody ever calls. Nowadays you get fired by tweet if you're in America.
Yeah.
Or text. Whatever it is, so I think it's fine. And
so do you think Jeff Hoon bore a grudge?
I think that's what it's all about. He's just bringing it up now. He's just there.
It's amazing how we've moved on. Like you delete it. You put it in the. Can you put it in the permanent
You can
delete?
shred things
You
in
set
it.
fire to your laptop.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember when Daniel Day-Lewis dumped Isabella Gianni by fax.
Oh, I miss a good fax.
That was a scandal at the time, but yeah.
Oh, I loved a fax. But and as far as Tony Blair and the whole knighthood thing, I think this is a queen's honor. It's the queen's gift. It's her judgment. And when have we ever seen the royals' judgment be poor?
Yeah. I mean, he joins an illustrious list of knights, including Jimmy Savile, Sir Jimmy Savile, protector of the realm.
Lord Ahmed, Lord Archer, there's plenty of them.
So, yeah, no mistakes there.
Yeah, I think it's more significant than you two do. Moving on to the next story. It's the Australian Open and Novak Djokovic not vaccinated in the medical dictatorship of Australia. Soap opera story is next, a story I'm following with the detached amusement of the psychopath. And what is the latest instalment in this drama?
Well, I'm glad that I got this story about this tennis champion because I don't know anything about sport. I don't know anything about tennis, and I wanted to write tennis puns in there.
The reason we hired you.
I wanted to put them in there, and then I thought I would serve it up. How's that?
Very good.
I was going to try.
Very
puns?
good.
You didn't do any puns. But
don't get him started.
All right,
on
I won't get him
puns.
started.
I was
but
UK
basically,
pun champion.
so Novak is not vaccinated for what appears to be his own personal reasons. He claimed medical, which is fine if you have real medical reasons, but Australia requires you to be vaccinated to enter the country. They've been through a harsh lockdown where people couldn't travel around the country because they're vaccinated. He's not being let in for it. And I think if that's what the rules are, that's what the rules should be. And what I do know about sport, what little I know, is it's a whole system based on rules. Like he can't just turn up at the tennis and have 2 rackets or 5 balls or 6 feet or whatever you would do with tennis. So he should know that better than anyone. And why? Because we've had sports figures in the U.S. as well be like, I'm not following the science, and I don't go for my sports figures for science. I don't have a rash and call up David Beckham and be like, hi, what should I do? So
yeah, there's quite a big anti-vax sentiment, one in the Slavic world, from where Djokovic is from, and 2 in tennis, specifically among sports. There's a French player who had the vaccine in his career, looks like it's been ended by it, I forget his name. He was only like number 30 in the world or something, but,
So he had the vaccine.
And
has he had some sort of, reaction?
Yeah, he's had an adverse reaction, he's not been able to place it. I forget his name, and I know a couple of, I used to be the tennis commentator on Channel 4 in 1994, and I've kept some of the relationships going, and I exchanged texts. And there's quite a lot. Yeah, it was one of my first voiceover jobs. But there's quite a lot of anti-vax sentiment amongst former tennis pros and presumably current tennis pros as well.
Well, it's interesting because in my sort of wilder WhatsApp groups, every day I'm being sent news stories about footballers and sports stars, young men who are falling down with heart attacks. And the implication is that they've had the vaccine, and this is causing the adverse reactions. I don't know if these are on a sort of aggregate level if the data is meaningful.
If it's on your WhatsApp group, I'm not going to question.
But basically, we're seeing a lot. And this
it's
is
specifically stop-start sports where
you're doing a lot. And these are people who really won't be affected much by coronavirus. They're young, they're healthy. I know like anybody can get sick from it, but if you look at the numbers, the younger you are, the fitter you are, the less likely you are to get ill. Certainly with Omicron, which is a runny nose. I mean, I was worried I'd have long runny nose. But
there we are, UK pun champion.
That's why I don't do any sport, and I've avoided that.
Well, okay, now I stress that any criticism of the vaccination that you might be able to infer from the conversation that we've just had is we don't know what we're talking about, basically. Just repeating what we said on WhatsApp groups, and so don't take it too seriously. Right, to The Guardian again, and Pope Francis, you might have guessed it, is suggesting couples who choose pets over children are selfish. Who's got this one?
I've got this one. It's interesting coming from a childless man. He's chosen being a pope over having children, and in fact, a lot of priests seem to do the same thing. They don't have kids. I mean, they don't give.
Yep.
That was another accidental slip up. I mean, really.
Yeah, we're not,
I don't know.
We're not implying anything about the Catholic Church there. But yeah, so Pope Francis, is he still called Pope Francis? Yeah, Pope Francis says, today we see a form of selfishness. We see some people that do not want to have a child. Sometimes they have one and that's it, but they have dogs and cats that take the place of children. This may make people laugh, but it is a reality. And I don't know, I don't think it's that selfish. I mean, if you have a child, it can look after you in your old age, visit you in the nursing home. If you have a dog, it dies right when you need it. So I think it's actually quite a selfless thing to do, especially if you get a rescue dog. And yeah, I think he raises a serious issue. So the fertility rate in the UK and across a lot of the West is below the replacement rate. Even in India's fallen below the replacement rate recently for the first time. So in the UK, women on average are having 1.65 children each. They don't actually give birth to partial children, but the replacement rate needs to be 2.1.
Yeah, it's one of the symptoms of wealth. The wealthier you are, the fewer children you have, because the fewer children you need.
Well, and also the wealth is concentrated.
If you can't afford a house, the wealthier you are, the healthier you are, and so you don't need to have as many children to secure the line. But the most commonly given reason, I've researched this quite a bit in one of my books, why people don't have more kids than they do is the expense of them.
Yeah, exactly. And in the UK, you can only really afford to have children if you're super rich or if you're super poor. If you're in the middle, you can't afford to buy a house. You can't afford to feed them.
Yeah, exactly. It's the squeezed middle. Were you about to say something?
Well, I think that if you've got to decide between the pets and the children, I have both at my house, and I'm inviting the Pope over right now. Come to my house, and once you spend some time with my children and the dog, you will choose the dog. Telling him right now.
OK, well, there we have expert advice from somebody who has reproduced successfully. Next up, it is The Telegraph, and the man who said he didn't incite the Capitol Hill riots has cancelled an anniversary speech commemorating an event he had nothing to do with. Eric, it's your favourite US president.
Oh, I do. I miss this guy. I do. I mean, because he was going to give a press conference, and Donald Trump's press conferences were always a joy to watch. I mean, the press conferences we get now from Biden, you've got competence and compassion and governance, good governance, and all kinds of things. Yes, you don't have. But I don't often say this. I feel bad for Donald Trump because you don't often get to do a press conference on the anniversary of your first ever coup. Right, but the good news is he will get other opportunities because there are going to be other coups the way things are going in the U.S. But so he basically canceled this press conference because he realized the major networks weren't going to cover it, and of course, everybody knows the saying that if you do a press conference and no one's covering it, does it really happen? And so he needs the media attention, and they weren't giving it to him.
Have you heard about this new social media platform?
Yes, he has. It's raised billions of dollars. I can't remember the name of it, but
they're changing it to Trump.
Yeah,
truth.
It's thegrift.com, I think, something like that.
Any thoughts on your favourite orange head?
Yeah, well, I miss him. I miss him so much. He was funny, and he made the news entertaining. Like, Biden's just boring, and he's not. I don't think Biden's competent at all. He seems like it's like watching Weekend at Bernie's. But to describe the Capitol Hill riot or kerfuffle, it's more of a kerfuffle than a riot, as a coup.
I see it as a stroll.
Yeah, it's a stroll. It looked like a stag do that got out of hand. And they didn't even get out of hand. They're walking within the ropes and stuff. And America's done lots of coups, and they involve tanks, they involve helicopters, and all this kind of stuff. There's none of that. There's a guy in a horned Viking head, and
he's doing jail time now.
That's a shame. I rather liked him. He was very charismatic.
Yeah, I like him behind bars.
If I was casting a movie, I'd give him the role. Right, it is time for an ad break. Don't go anywhere. Part 3 is coming up, and Part 3 is the best part.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints over a drink. we have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back to part 3 of Headliners. I'm Dominic Frisby, and with me are comedians Leo Kearse and Eric McElroy, and we have a horrible story now with chilling implications. The former Labour peer, Lord Nazir Ahmed, Rotherham's first Asian councillor, has been found guilty of rape and sexual assault, repeated crimes that took place 40 years ago. The boy was under 11.
Yeah.
Leo.
Yeah, a horrific story. And it's not his first sex crime. He was actually expelled from the House of Lords after the House of Lords Conduct Committee found out he'd sexually assaulted a vulnerable woman.
I thought he resigned.
Yeah, he was recommended for expulsion and then he resigned, before the recommendation could be implemented. He was born in Pakistan-controlled Kashmir, came to Britain aged 12, and joined the Labour Party aged 18 and became Rotherham's first Asian councillor. And that town's name, unfortunately, is synonymous with this kind of crime, and it's horrific. There's not really anything you can say about it.
It's just horrible.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing to add, I suppose, is that these historical crimes are getting prosecuted. So if someone is out there that if you do come forward now, there are people are getting charged and seeing direct action for it. So this doesn't have to end. Awful as it is, people can get help if it.
But it's not like it's just taken so long for it all to come out. 40 years. I mean, what are the impact? And it's not the only one. Right, to the Express, and it would appear North Korea started the new year off with a bang, Eric.
Yes, this one is get to be a little bit more fun with this. North Korea has launched an unidentified projectile into the sea. It looks like it was some sort of ballistic missile. This is Kim Jong-un just having a good time in the new year. This is his first ballistic missile of the year, and it's the 5th, so it's a good start to it all. I think he missed being called Little Rocket Man. I think, he missed Donald Trump as well. They got on. I don't know if he just had the idea of firing this missile because he had just promised, because in his country that, people are starving, if he promised to put all the hunger and fire it into the sea. I don't know what his aim is with this, but he's fired 119 rockets now, according to the story in the Express, and his father and grandfather only like in the dozens. So he's overachieving. I think he wants to get warmonger status, and then maybe he'll get a knighthood. You see how that comes around,
And any thoughts on Rocket Man?
No, I mean...
He's lost weight.
He has lost weight.
He has
lost weight, and his secret police are arresting people who copy him by buying a similar jacket, apparently. So it's good to see he's providing employment in North Korea to secret policemen. I guess it's
guided hairstyles around the world.
And it's a sort of inspiration for Bond villains.
Yeah.
He really is. He's got that real Bond villain feel. Him and Jeff Bezos.
He needs to picture himself with a white cat. Right, we're going to go to The Independent next, and one of the unintended consequences of COVID regulations is that aeroplane pilots are making mistakes through lack of practice, Eric.
Yes, I love this story. So apparently, you know, they're rusty coming out of COVID and they haven't been flying as much. And so they're making some little errors as they're flying their plane. And I think, you know, us coming out of COVID, we hadn't performed live gigs for a while. And I think we are very much, as comedians, like airline pilots. You know, you get up there, you're taking off with your joke, you're setting it up, you're like, oh, and then you realize
the destiny of 180 people is in our hands.
But you haven't, you know, some material we haven't thought about we were going to do, and we're up there and we're like, how am I going to land this thing? And then you're like, I don't want to say it wrong because I will die and I will take those 180 people with me. So I think, you know, we're very similar in our skill set. The mistakes they were making, though, are brilliant. It says in the story here that they left their parking brake on. Who hasn't done that? You're in the plane, like, that's what that is. And then they also confused their altitude with their airspeed. Now, I don't know how you do that. Like, you're at 35,000 feet or you're going 35,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You would notice that difference numerically.
That is concerning.
So, I mean, it makes me glad I haven't traveled yet post-COVID. I'm waiting for these flights to get through the practice.
Yeah. It's where are you on?
I just want to know how when they realised that they had the parking brake on. I mean, were they just leaving a plume of smoke behind them and realised they're in the actual aftershave?
Yeah, I mean, presumably these were simulators, or were they genuine?
No, this is real flights. They did the simulators, but I mean, we've all driven with the parking brake on, haven't we, guys? Let's be honest.
I don't think you can anymore. Your car must be really old and really bad.
It's not doing very well. I need a new car. That's why I'm here.
Right, our next story is from The Express, and Prince Andrew no longer sweats. How about that?
Well, that's not quite what the story says. So this is in The Express.
Am I quoting it out of context for the hyperbole and comedic purposes, or whatever it was that?
Well, you're making more mistakes than a Ryanair pilot.
I know.
Prince Andrew
I had Christmas off. I've got Omicron. It's all working against me, right?
Thank God you're not flying a jumbo jet. But Prince Andrew famously claimed on the Emily Maitlis Newsnight interview that he could no longer sweat after experiencing trauma during the Falklands War, when the vending machine ran out of Kit Kats. No, he was in the Falklands. Served his country well in the Falklands War.
He was shot at.
He was shot at, by the father of one of the. So this is in one of his accusers, Virginia Roberts Giuffre. I wish people had easier. Nobody in this case has got an easy to pronounce name like Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine.
Just get normal names. That's all I'm asking.
Nobody be interested in you.
I like Giuffre because it's got that Virginia Giuffre.
Giuffre, no, it's a good name. So
like one of our Norman rulers.
So she's claiming she's a victim of Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender who died in prison in 2019, obviously. So Prince Andrew's involved in this because he visited Lolita Island on the Pedo Express or whatever the plane was called.
When planes could fly.
I don't know if the parking brake was on, but it should have been on. So her lawyers have started questioning Prince Andrew, and they've got an expert witness, a sweating expert, which there can't be many times you get to shine in the media spotlight as a sweating expert. But when Rick Waller goes back on Celebrity Fit Camp, and when Prince Andrew he's been quizzed about whether this is possible, and he basically says no. Prince Andrew is probably not telling the truth.
Yeah. But we're waiting for this case to move forward, and what they're deciding now is if this agreement she had with Epstein, includes other people, and so his lawyers are saying, he should be covered by this because she agreed not to sue anyone else. But the judge, when he said he was going to do his decision, which we don't have yet, he said that he would decide very soon. And then since they've been arguing over the semantics of words, he said, I'll decide what very soon is. That was almost 2 days ago. So I think we're going to start to see if Prince Andrew can sweat pretty soon.
If anyone ever sees him sweating now on camera at any time, he's just going to be done, isn't he? Right, the Times is next, and a 700-mile drive to vaccinate your kids. Eric.
Yes. So this is a woman who's from the UK, and her daughter is under the age of 9, which currently you can't vaccinate an under 9-year-old unless they're vulnerable or deemed vulnerable. And they've got either dual Italian citizenship, or at least the little girl is Italian. So she drove her to Italy because there they are vaccinating the under 12-year-olds. And she didn't want to fly with her because she's obviously very worried about COVID. So she drove with her 700 miles to Italy. Now, I appreciate that she cares about her daughter. In America, you can get a 9-year-old vaccinated, so the rules are obviously all over the place around the world. But I'm going to say, after 700 miles with a 9-year-old in the car, I'm imagining she got to Italy and was like, I don't really care anymore.
Yeah.
Just 9-year-old girls just stuck in the car.
Very keen.
Trapped. I mean, the iPad battery's going to go after about 2 hours.
Yeah, one presumes they stopped en route
to charge up and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean,
maybe they've got a Tesla.
They might have plugged it into the cigarette lighter.
There you go. The girl or the iPad?
The iPad.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. But I mean, the rules are, because we're trying to go to the States in April, and my son isn't double vaxxed yet, and restaurants in America, in New York, aren't allowing you to go in unless even if you're 12 and you're not double vaxxed. So he's going to have to sit outside while we eat. None of the kids under 12 can come into the restaurant, but if you're over 12 in New York City now, you have to be double vaccinated. And he hasn't been.
I just think people are getting the risk out of proportion. If you drive 700 miles and 700 back, then there's a risk of being in a car accident.
Yeah,
a serious risk.
fatigue, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, the Evening Standard is next, and that Gal Gadot, I don't know who Gal Gadot is, but apparently he or she is Wonder Woman, okay. And I saw the Imagine video, it went viral for all the wrong reasons. Badly judged, I think, is one way of putting it.
Yeah, like every single other video around social causes that Hollywood A-listers have ever done. So, Gal Gadot did a cover of Imagine, the song by the lauded wife-beater John Lennon, and it featured Cara Delevingne, and also Kaya Gerber and Ashley Benson. I like Ashley Benson because he's got a name you can pronounce, but they did this song, and it was basically saying to everybody, oh, look, we're all in this together. But we're all in lockdown. We're all going to isolate together. But they were doing it from their, 7,500 square metre Bel Air apartments, which isn't quite the same as a cramped studio in Peckham that you're sharing with your brother. So it's not... We're not all in this together. Some of us are in it a lot more than other people, and so this blew up on social media for absolute, just it showed the sort of pomposity and hypocrisy of the Hollywood liberal elite.
I have a slightly different frame of reference in that I didn't know any of those people, but Noel Coward, the great English songwriter, published a song in, I think it was 1943, when he was living in his mansion in Jamaica during World War II, and the song went, "Don't let's be beastly to the German." And it made him incredibly unpopular because he totally misjudged the public mood. And P.G. Wodehouse had a similar... He wrote some missives from prison, where he was imprisoned in World War II on the continent, and he was trying to put a brave face on things and make jokes, and the jokes were misinterpreted, and he was thought to be a traitor at one point, bought off by the Germans. So it's easy to misjudge, even if you're Noel Coward and P.G. Wodehouse. And so to the Express next, and a vigilante cyclist with a camera has shopped over 1,000 drivers to the police.
Yes.
What's this, Eric?
Now, I have to say, first off, I've lived in the UK for 21 and a half years, and I didn't, this phrase that the man known as Cycling Mikey was shopping close to these 1,000 drivers. I'd never heard the phrase, the shopping, grassing someone up or turning someone in.
Yeah.
Or I thought originally when I started reading the story that he worked for Deliveroo or something, and he was just bringing food to people that were stuffing traffic.
Old Cockney villain slang, that.
Yeah, I live in a posh area. Now, the thing is, I mean, he's basically been catching people out who are texting while driving, which is obviously a horrific thing you should not do. It's very dangerous.
But we've all done it.
But people already don't like cyclists enough.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a tricky thing to do because he's basically going around, and he's caught celebrities, which I don't understand why he hasn't caught any of us.
Well, he caught Chris Eubank, which is quite impressive. Chris Eubank drives a semi-articulated truck. So I don't know if he's on a penny farthing to be able to film into that cab, but that's quite impressive. But I do think, obviously, texting while driving is horrific. It's really dangerous. Yeah. It's a terrible thing.
No, it is dangerous. When I was making my hilarious joke, we've all done it, I was actually meant in traffic. But
that's the thing, because some of the people who've been arrested as a result of Van Erp, I don't know if that's rhyming slang, but have been at the stationary in traffic, which obviously isn't
technically it's illegal.
It's illegal, yeah. But you're not going to.
Yeah.
I mean, with the technology there, they have to find a way to make this, because it exists and people are getting messaged all the time.
The rules of the road raise all sorts of fascinating philosophical conundrums. Like there's a whole moral... I once saw a talk by a philosopher about the morals of jumping a red light when you're a cyclist. And it raises so many interesting questions, which we are not going to address here. It's the Mirror next, and a rather amusing Tinder date, a Tinder date of our times. Leo, you are the resident Tinder consultant on this show.
So, I actually met my fiancée on Bumble, but this is in the Mirror, and a woman was forced to isolate with a man she just met on Tinder after the pair both tested positive when they were together. I don't know why they on a first date, they decided to go for a COVID test. That doesn't sound like... Normally, I go to the pub. But so she's on TikTok. If you want to follow her, she's at PoppyMoore777. There must have already been 776 Poppy Moores. But she just met a match from online dating. They found they're infected. So they isolated at his place, which they didn't have to do, to be honest. She could have gone back, but I think maybe she just liked the look of him.
So did they catch the COVID off each other?
I don't think you can. One of you has to have it.
Yeah.
So you can't just catch it off each other.
Well, that's what I mean. So did person A have it and give it? Did bloke? I noticed the bloke's gone unnamed in this story, by the way.
He doesn't have a TikTok account. That's why.
But did she have it and give it to him?
He's just waiting for her to leave. I mean,
Trying to conceal his identity.
It makes a refreshing change from all the the stories of people's sex lives being ruined by the lockdown. There was what's his name? Oh, what's his name? Kim
Jong-un? Who?
Femi?
Oh, Femi, the guy off Twitter who's always...
Yeah, the guy off Twitter. So he went on a Tinder... He says lockdown ruined his sex life. So he went on a Tinder date and he had he socially distanced himself, probably swaddled in mass, and played a song on his keyboard. And the relationship fizzled out. I mean, it might have fizzled out for reasons other than lockdown. I mean, it sounds like you went on a Tinder date and played a keyboard, and she was like,
She probably voted leave. That's what probably...
You wanted leave from that date.
I mean, he's a very nice man. I've met him. I mean, I don't know. I mean, how did they get... That is true. The fact... So at what point did they get the test? Did they just randomly decide to have lateral flows?
I think that's the thing when you go on a test and you go for a test.
I mean, I would want to get tested for some other things.
If they catch it off
than Omicron that I'd be worried about on a Tinder date. But, I'm old school, been married a long time. But I mean, being trapped like that...
But I quite admire, it just shows you how desperate some people are for social media attention. And I guess I've got to put myself in that category. But the fact that she was able to exploit it and build up a huge TikTok...
She's racked up 3 million views on TikTok. But it's TikTok. It's not like... I mean, 3 million views...
That's even more than 17 million F-offs got.
But 3 million views on TikTok. Like my mate Darius says, it's like Zimbabwe currency. That equates to about 3 Facebook likes.
Yeah, still. More. Do you have any views on TikTok?
I got... Actually, I do. I've got I only put a few videos up because I instantly got bored, but I got 500,000 views on one of them.
30 million. You said 30
TikTok
million.
is just for idiots. So...
Right, we're going to go to our final story. I want to ask you about awful dates, but let's just do this final story first. And then this is from the Mail and a study by Murdoch University of Perth, Australia. I wonder who funded Murdoch University. What is this study?
I think it's quite an old university, pre the current famous Murdochs. So this is a love at first sight story. So basically, men, when they catch a glimpse of a woman, tend to think that she's quite attractive because they did the test and it was a blurry picture and then they showed a clear picture. The men were quite like, oh, I like her. The women were always a little bit, they judged the other side. They went, ugh, don't like him. And then on a closer inspection, went, yes.
So men overestimate and women underestimate.
So some would say that men are optimistic, or I would say desperate. And I'd say from my own personal experience, I can identify with this because it took a while for my wife to say yes to marrying me until after we'd had our first child. And I think then she decided she liked the look of me. So I think this does pan out.
I thought my missus was really hot at first. I'm only joking. Right.
Yeah.
Did you overestimate your fiancée's beauty?
I fancied her.
Was it clear or blurry?
That's a less academic way of putting exactly the same thing.
I could see her quite clearly.
Yeah.
But
And did she underestimate yours, do you think?
I've no idea. It was on our second date. We went to the London dungeon. And
Did you go for a COVID test?
We kissed
first?
in the dungeon.
Did you?
It was great.
Next to the blood and gore, next to somebody having their head chopped
they were
off.
just telling us about Jack the Ripper. And I was like, sent me into a frenzy. It was.
We've all done it. And when was the last time you went on a date? Must be
decades
before the internet.
Decades ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. Well, I'm happily married, but the experience, online dating, because it was like taboo when my wife and I met to go online. It was like it's like the beginning of.
It was a sort of loser thing to do, wasn't it?
Very much a loser thing to do. But I mean, now, my goodness, how do people date other than online?
Well, yeah, it's almost become the thing where if you walk up to somebody and try to chat them up, that's seen as almost like sexual harassment.
Yeah.
So now everybody's got to do it through little apps on their phones. I think we've lost some of the romance and mystique of meeting somebody, that immediacy, that electricity.
Yeah, you used to you have to behave in a certain way, and now it's all virtual. But anyway, never mind. I think the end will all be all right in the end. Anyway, that's all we've got time for tonight, ladies and gents. Regarding our conversation earlier about the vaccine, I'd just like to reiterate that any suggestion that there have been widespread adverse reactions to the vaccine is not a view shared by medical experts. Thank you very much to my guests, Leo Kearse and Eric McElroy. I do hope you've enjoyed yourselves. Thank you very much to you at home for watching. I do hope you have enjoyed yourselves too. And until tomorrow, when I'll be back with 2 more comedians and more headlines about tomorrow's papers, but tomorrow will be Friday, if that makes sense. Until then, cheerio.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Good evening. It is getting cold out there. It's going to be frosty tonight and frosty in the morning. A few fog patches as well. Wet weather then spreads east tomorrow with some snow mixed in, mostly over the hills. That's courtesy of this area of low pressure, but it's not with us yet. A bump in the isobars, a ridge of high pressure, meaning clear skies, and those winds continuing to ease down. So light winds, clear skies this time of night means a frost, a widespread frost forming already, and temperatures are only going to continue to fall. There'll be some fog patches forming as well, of course, parts of the Midlands and southern England too. But the main thing will be those temperatures below freezing, even in towns and cities, well below in rural spots. So a very cold start to Thursday, and then things turn wet across Northern Ireland, some snow on the hills, and then as this wet weather arrives across Scotland, some significant snow likely on the higher routes here, also across parts of Northern England. Some of the higher routes not very pleasant for a time through the course of tomorrow afternoon. We'll turn back to rain as we go through